What is up, Nerd Nation? It's your boy Hunter here from Film Nerd TV, and tonight we are doing a WrestleMania 34 recap show. I know it's a little late, but we are doing it. Rocking P1 all day. I am joined by my co-host Nico Swami Regali. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going well. It's going well. I'm having a pretty good week so far. WrestleMania, I enjoyed it. Raw after, SmackDown after, both great. NXT Takeover, obviously.
Epic.
It's been an exciting week, and I'm happy that we get to recap all the events that happened here today.
Oh yes, and we have crowned a first ever predictions champion. Nico, explain all this shit that happened.
Okay, so if you saw our two separate videos from what was it, Wednesday or Thursday of last week, we originally were going to do UFC predictions, and that was going to be the sole basis of who would win the predictions championship. Then we threw in NXT. And then Conor McGregor throws a dolly into a bus window and pretty much destroys the entire UFC card. So we pretty much just scrapped all our predictions from there because there were just too many last-minute changes going on for us to keep track. And with NXT, we basically we both kind of picked Shayna Baszler to win, and the latter match didn't have either of the guys we thought were going to win.
Which I was surprised on that one.
Yeah. Like I could have sworn it was going to be like one of our picks because we were just going with like homegrown talent. One of them just happened to go into other promotions and get their name out there from there. But still, it was my dog is scratching on the glass door. I better let her back inside. But I'll just keep talking as I let her back in. So we decided at the very last minute, we're just gonna submit our WrestleMania picks online, and we're gonna pick a predictions champion from there. So that's pretty much the sound. But Conor McGregor fucked everything up, so we had to make a decision on the fly.
Yeah, but we do have a punishment, which we will do in a separate video. This one is all going to recap our thoughts and opinions, our review on WrestleMania 34, and we are going to give it the 5-star rating. 1 out of 5 stars, like we do on all of our reviews here on Film Nerd TV. So, Nico, start us off with the pre-show matches.
Okay, first we had the 30-man Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. First thing I want to point out is Aiden English, who we saw later on the main show with a shaved head. He had hair in this match. I thought I saw something off, and I took a look at it, and lo and behold, Aiden English, he shaved his head in between matches. And so I thought that's something I should bring up first. My pick to win this match was torn between either Elias or Samoa Joe. And I thought, whichever one of them it wasn't, that person will be Braun Strowman's partner in the tag match.
Oh, and lo and behold, get to that.
Yes. We will get to that. Lo and behold, neither of them were in the Battle Royal. And you got this match correct. You picked Matt Hardy, and I believe you picked it with help from Bray Wyatt, who, thanks to the Lake of Reincarnation, has now purged Sister Abigail from his vessel and is now one with the Woken universe. Yes, he has been awoken. So Matt Hardy is your Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal winner.
Yep. My thoughts on this match. It was a Battle Royal. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, to me, has been pointless. But what I like this year is that they incorporated a story into the match with Bray Wyatt coming back, helping Matt win, and then you set up a lot of things from there. I just wish that the Battle Royal would mean more. Maybe and I keep saying this, I would like the winner of the Battle Royal to be able to get an opportunity at the IC or US titles. A mid-card championship. That way it's not, a major title, but it's something that, let's say Elias would have won. Then, that would have helped to make another star. So, like, you get the trophy and you get a shot at the US/Intercontinental, whatever show you're on at the time. That way, it means more, and you're actually gonna you actually give a shit about the match.
No, I get that. I get that completely. Like, I believe the first person to win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal was Cesaro, and he was with the Real Americans at the time. Mm-hmm. And then they suddenly used that storyline as an excuse to like break them up and put Cesaro with Paul Heyman, and it just fell flat. When there was so much potential left for the Real Americans to like become tag team champions, which I don't think they got to do.
Yeah, they did once.
Oh, they did? Okay. Mm-hmm. But like, unfortunately, nothing ever came of it. Like Cesaro and Paul Heyman split up at some point, and Cesaro didn't find his footing again until he teamed with Tyson Kidd. And then the next year they had Big Show win simply because, they wanted to hammer on like a giant winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And then the year after that, it was Baron Corbin, who, as I said before we went live, I somehow managed to pick when he had no music and nobody really knew he was being called up to the main roster at the time. And they tried to do stuff with him. It took a while. It took a while.
They ended up feeding him to Cena.
Yeah. And now we're actually doing something with a Battle Royal winner here, because Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, they're now in contention
for the tag team titles
to essentially become the Raw Tag Team Champions at the greatest Royal Rumble event in Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. It's all dependent on what happens next week on Raw, but it looks like they're trying to make this relevant.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
All right, next match.
Next match was the tournament final for the vacant WWE Cruiserweight Championship. We have Cedric Alexander taking on Mustafa Ali. Now, I had Mustafa Ali winning this.
I had Cedric.
But then again, I hadn't really been keeping up with 205 Live on the regular. I just thought that, Cedric had his time back when Enzo was still with the company, and then Enzo got fired, and then, Mustafa, he kept getting more and more popular, and it felt like his time was coming. Lo and behold, that's not what happened. Cedric Alexander, he pushed through, and he is your new Cruiserweight champion. So that put Hunter up at 2 to my nothing.
Yep.
However, I will say this. We just mentioned the greatest Royal Rumble event in Saudi Arabia. The Cruiserweight Championship is scheduled to be defended at that event, and I have a feeling that Mustafa Ali might pick up a win there.
Oh, yeah. I went with Cedric Alexander. One, I'm a huge fan of Cedric, going back to his Ring of Honor days. He put on a great performance in the Cruiserweight Classic when they first did that tournament, to the point where the fans were so behind him, they wanted him to get the contract.
They were literally chanting, "Please sign Cedric, please sign Cedric." Yep. And then Triple H just walks out and he goes and just gives them the thumbs up and then walks backstage.
Thing is, they haven't been given Cedric the opportunities to really shine. And I really wanted this card because the match that they put on was really, really, really good. But imagine if they had more time on the main card. The story was there. You had two best friends going at it for the title. But it's bumped on the pre-show, which is something that the Cruiserweight Championship didn't need, because that just shows what they think of the Cruiserweights in general. The match was great. Both both of them going back and forth with each other. I think it was a suplex from the outside was very scary. Ali took a big push off the top rope, basically free falling to the ground, which was fucking sick, and it ended with a lumbar check for the victory, and yeah, up 2-0. It was a great match. I just wish it was on the main card instead of the pre-show.
I share your sentiments. At the same time, though, I'm looking at the rest of the card entirely, and the only match that I could see you possibly replacing the Cruiserweight Championship match with, like flip-flopping it, is the United States Championship Fatal 4-Way, and people would then be bummed with like, why is Rusev and Bobby Roode on the pre-show? So, if you put the Cruiserweight Championship on the main card, so it's like the impossible task of like trying to fit everyone in. And
the U.S. title has already been established. You know what that is. The Cruiserweights have not been given the opportunity to shine. Every time you think that they're going to get an opportunity, they're either bumped on the pre-show or like the first match on the card where they get like maybe 5 minutes.
Fair point. They did get 12 minutes though. They did get 12 minutes though to show their stuff. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Just sucks that
moving on.
A lot of people didn't watch
What's
it.
That?
I said it sucks that not a lot of people watched it.
Oh. Hey guys, I'm recording. Sorry about that. Family just walked in.
That's fine.
Okay. So moving on to the third match on the pre-show, and I'm looking at the time for it, and wow, it was only like 9 minutes and 50 seconds. That is surprising. The Women's Battle Royal. Now, I believe I had Bayley winning this, and you, I think, had Sasha?
Yep.
And lo and behold, I was almost right. And then out comes Naomi, which who I'm a fan of. So I will appreciate the fact that she won. It just didn't do anything for me in terms of like points and predictions.
No, it didn't. See, this one kind of made me not angry, but kind of deflated. Because you had this great story going on with Sasha and Bayley. Yes, it was in the Battle Royal, but you still could have done what they did in the Andre one and set the story from there. Either have Sasha turn full heel and eliminate Bayley from behind. Maybe she was the one who was hiding. You know, give her that little sneak edge. She sneaks in and eliminates Bayley. But instead, Bayley wins, or thinks she wins, and then Naomi comes out. Apparently, she rolled out of the ring, up under the ring, and then she wins. It felt overbooked. It felt like they didn't really care. And it just felt like, hey, let's get all these divas, or all these women competitors in the ring and just let them go.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Because like I just said, they only gave them under 10 minutes to really work. So that's kind of sad. I mean, like that's the whole point of battle royals though at WrestleMania, is to like just fit everyone on the card that you couldn't fit in a one-on-one setting.
Oh yeah.
And
but just coming off of the first women's Royal Rumble where the women's main evented a Big Four pay-per-view, and then you have a battle royal like this on the pre-show, it kind of feels like a step down.
I will agree with that. You know, I will say props to Naomi. Like we were so focused on Sasha and Bayley that it's nice to sometimes be reminded that, hey, there are other stars that just might not be getting their time, but like this could be the start of something good for Naomi, because like on last night,
wasn't Paige on commentary for this match?
Yes, Paige was also on commentary. Yes.
Yep.
along with Beth Phoenix, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Which was a very weird combo, but and we forgot to mention the special guest commentators for the Under the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, JR and Jerry the King Lawler. Great to hear them back on commentary once again.
Yes. Anytime JR is on commentary is always a treat. Anytime Jerry Lawler is on commentary for a match that doesn't involve women who he wants to date is a nice treat.
I actually heard I'm not sure if you watch Wrestling with Regret.
No, I did not watch them.
But Brian Zane, he was saying that Corey Graves reminds him of a younger Bobby Heenan on commentary. When he said that, I really got that. He is such a good commentary heel. Like, he plays it so well. And the dude's just generally funny. I don't know why this is coming up now, but that just stuck with me.
Oh, he has like the perfect personality for commentary.
Him and Saxon going back and forth.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the main show now. We had the triple threat match for the WWE Intercontinental Championship, in which Seth Rollins defeated The Miz, who was the champion, and Finn Balor. Now, first thing I want to point out is Seth Rollins, I believe his attire was inspired by the White Walkers from Game of Thrones.
Which, if you recognize, last year was fire. This year is ice. Song of Fire and Ice. I love that detail.
So either he is a giant Game of Thrones fan, or whoever does his wardrobe is a giant Game of Thrones fan.
Oh, Seth has already said he's a giant Game of Thrones fan, which makes me a bigger fan of him now because I love Game of Thrones.
And also in terms of wardrobe, of Finn Balor, I'm upset that he didn't do the demon gimmick, but he did have a redesign of his shirt that featured rainbow colors to support the LGBT community. Yeah, which also kind of hypes up rumors that Stephanie McMahon wants to make him a gay character. If they do go that route, I really hope that the McMahon family is not in charge of that booking, because they will somehow screw up.
I can explain this. The reason why he has that is because Finn is recently a spokesperson for GLAAD. So he wanted to show his support for the GLAAD community, the LGBTQ community.
And Miz, he didn't really do anything crazy with his wardrobe, but he did send the Miztourage backstage, which he later explained the next night on Raw was because he wanted to eliminate all the doubt possible, because he is a father now and he wants to make sure he wants to make sure that everything he does, positively reflects his family. Hey,
Seth made his daughter cry. That was the greatest thing.
And you know what? I felt bad
for a slight moment.
If I was in Seth's position, whether Miz was being serious or not, I would have been like, "Come here, man. Come here. Let me give you a hug. Let me. Where's Dr. Shelby or whatever his name was?
Yes, Dr. Shelby. Hug it out.
But this match had probably the greatest curb stomp I've ever seen. I believe Seth curb stomped the Miz's face onto Finn Balor's back.
No, it was the opposite. Because Balor hit the coup de grace on Miz, went for the pin. Rollins hit the stomp on Balor, pinned Balor to win. No, sorry, he pinned Miz to win.
Still though, that was probably my most favorite curb stomp of all time. Even surpassing when he curb stomped Dean Ambrose into the cinder blocks.
I don't know. My favorite will always be the one he did to Kofi, where Kofi just implanted on his head, basically hit and did a flip.
Send me a link for that, because I honestly don't remember that one.
I will.
But yes, Seth Rollins, he pinned The Miz, leaving no doubt he beat the Intercontinental Champion, and he is now the final member of the Shield to have completed the Grand Slam. And it's like if you look at like the order in which the Shield members have all accomplished certain things, it's very interesting. Like Seth Rollins, the first person to win the WWE Championship out of all three of them. Then you Dean
Ambrose.
Then you have Dean Ambrose, who was the first to complete the Grand Slam out of all three. And Roman Reigns, he was the first multiple-time WWE champion. Like they've all made their
now. You can say that the Shield is the greatest faction in WWE history, in my opinion.
Without a doubt. Unless the New Day starts getting some singles titles of their own.
I don't see that happening.
Oh, come on. Big E.
I mean, I like the New Day, but they're great as a team. Their single run has not been good at all.
I feel like Big E's time will come. It's only a matter of time.
I don't see Big E as world champion material.
Really, though? I mean, he's only 5'11", but he's a big, thick guy. And we know Vince McMahon likes big, sweaty man. And Big E, he has the personality and the build of what Vince McMahon considers to be a main event guy. Like, he rarely gets injured. He's one of the few big guys I think that can do like a full split. We just never see it. But like if you watched an episode of Ride Along, he has like both feet hanging out of both windows of the car in the back seat. It's hilarious. They actually needed to help him get his legs back into the car.
I think it's too late for him, in my opinion. Not as of age, but just they've made him almost like a laughingstock. I mean, he's completely entertaining, but can you really take him seriously as a world champion now?
Hey, listen, you could say the same thing about Mark Henry at one point. People could have said that, like, he was done at a certain point, and then lo and behold, here comes the Hall of Pain, world championship reign, and now he's in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, if you turn Big E heel, that would be interesting. Have him turn against the New Day. That would be interesting.
No, I don't think you even have to turn him heel in order for that to happen. Because Big E, if he channels that preacher inside of him, and he just starts
feel the power.
Like that catches the audience the way he does that.
All right. Back on topic.
Okay. Let's move on to the women's championship match for SmackDown.
Who'd you have?
I had the Miz. You had Balor.
I had Finn Balor.
So we both lost.
We're both wrong. But still, incredible match. My second favorite match of the night, behind one we'll talk about later.
I haven't really ranked any of the matches I've picked yet, but that was also one of my favorites. Moving on to the singles match for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship, we have the Queen herself, Charlotte Flair. She successfully defended her title against the undefeated Asuka. Now, we both had Asuka, I believe.
Yeah.
And we both came out wrong on this one. You think this was a horrible booking idea, to which I will say, Goldberg had two streaks, both end in ridiculous fashions. This was a very dominant streak that got ended in a non-ridiculous fashion on the grandest stage of them all to a worthy competitor. So I will say, you might say that Charlotte Flair didn't need the win over Asuka.
No, she didn't.
And to an extent, I will agree with that, but I don't think it hurts Asuka. I don't think it hurts Asuka to have this loss, because now she can go back to Raw, she can chase the title, but she no longer the writers no longer have to worry about she can lose to someone like Nia Jax and not get hurt by it, or Nia Jax can lose to someone like her and not get hurt by that. It frees her up for more things to happen along the way. I don't
mind that the streak lost. The streak was gone. I just wish they wouldn't have set her up to lose. Because you set up Asuka, the undefeated streak was so powerful. And then on the grandest stage of them all, for the title for the very first time, she can't get the job done. Now, you talk about Goldberg's streak ending the first time. After the taser incident, Goldberg's ranking went all the way down. And that was due to shitty booking and the fact that they didn't know what to do with him after the streak ended. That's what I'm worried about.
In fairness, though, this is not a taser. This is a loss. This is an okay loss to someone of equal credibility. Like
I will agree that, you know, I like Charlotte. I'm not going to say that she didn't deserve it, and this was a great match. I just wish that, like, my whole idea was, you know, Asuka wins, Rousey wins. You set up a whole undefeated streak for the entire year. Next year at Mania, you have Asuka defending the title against Ronda Rousey. That could be a main event match for Mania. You could have booked that so well.
And that was the original plan. And then, like, the rumor has it that, like, literally that day's notice, if not a few days before WrestleMania went live, that they just suddenly changed the game plan, and they instead wanted to go with Rousey versus Charlotte. So they decided, okay, Asuka, unfortunately, your streak's going to end here, and also you can't really use the armbar anymore because we want that to be Ronda's thing. So
Asuka didn't really need to use the armbar anymore. She got the Asuka lock, but I mean, that was one of her things that she would set up using the Asuka lock.
Yeah, and that's just another thing that they were setting up with this rivalry, was that they were having Asuka use the armbar because they probably had in the back of their mind, in 1 year we're going to have her go up against Ronda Rousey. So it feels like a good idea to have both of these ladies using armbars so that we can have like an armbar clinic once this match happens.
Yeah.
You know, short-term booking won out over long-term booking in the end, but
I just thought, because I was listening to the Collider podcast. They have a review on WrestleMania 34, and what Christian said on there made so much sense. He was like, they booked the main events of Mania based on marketing strategy, which is why Lesnar and Reigns was the main event over AJ Nakamura, because Lesnar sells tickets, Reigns sells T-shirts. It's marketing. Imagine if you set up undefeated Ronda Rousey, who already has a fan base coming in from the UFC, and undefeated Asuka for the title. That could have been the perfect main event, and it would be history making, the first women's match to main event WrestleMania.
And I think that's what the McMahons see in Charlotte. They see someone who is capable of main eventing WrestleMania as the first female to do so. Asuka, you know, we've heard rumors that Kevin Dunn hates accents, and unfortunately, Asuka, her English is a little bit broken. And granted, it's kind of cool watching her yell at people in Japanese, but like it's hard. It's hard to carry a storyline that way. So you know, they went with what's more marketable, and you know, we'll see how things go. Like 2 nights later on SmackDown, they dropped the title. They have Carmella successfully cash in. So we have some.
So dumb because it takes away the momentum from Charlotte now.
Nah. I feel like money in the like Charlotte. Charlotte will be fine. This is another one of those situations where we might be making a bigger deal out of something happening than we should be. Like Charlotte is still strong as a competitor. Like she got beat up by 2 girls in order for that cash in to be successful, and it heightens Carmella because like we were still like she got eliminated from the Battle Royal first. Like she had annoyed that many people that they all just like ganged up on her and threw her out of the ring first. So like this re-strengthens Carmella, and it doesn't really do anything to hurt Charlotte because she had to suffer like the worst beatdown ever from multiple people in order for that cash in to become successful.
Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed this match. This was actually a top. Like, the first half of Mania was really, really, really good, really strong. You had two great matches back to back. I don't agree with ending Asuka's streak. I mean, you could have caused a DQ. That way, Charlotte retains the title, but Asuka still wins.
You don't want to end a match at WrestleMania by a DQ, especially one of this caliber, because, like, in my opinion, that's worse. That is when you get into the Goldberg taser incident territory.
I mean,
then, like,
it's better than setting up Asuka as a strong competitor than having her tap out.
Listen, you got to go with, like, the samurai way of thinking here, and in my opinion, like, Charlotte is, I mean, both Charlotte and Asuka are the type of competitors who are going to live by the sword, die by the sword. They would rather have a match of this caliber end with one of them either pinned or tapping out than by a DQ or countout. Keeping a streak alive is not worth that type of finish because it just pisses off the crowd. Whereas, like,
anyway,
yeah, but I still feel like a clean finish is better than a DQ when we're dealing with this type of thing, because I feel like we avoid the realm of like Goldberg and the taser that way, because then it leaves no doubt. The clean finishes will leave no doubt as to who the better competitor was in that evening.
Yeah, I get that. I wouldn't want it either, but I'm saying you had so much momentum with Asuka. And Charlotte, to be honest, I love her, but she did not need it. In the first year, on the main roster she was there, she was already a 6-time women's champion.
I agree with you that she didn't need it. But,
And she was the only person to win the NXT, Divas, and both SmackDown and Raw women's championships.
Yeah, she's the only Grand Slam female champion, and that's a big deal. Like, if it were up to me, I would have had Asuka beat Charlotte, and then I would have had Charlotte maybe go into like the U.S. title picture if that's something they would like. You've already completed everything there is to do for a female competitor. Why not go the China route next and see who you can beat in terms of the men? I mean, like, you're 6 feet tall, so you're a pretty big girl. And
that's playing with fire, especially nowadays.
I realize that. That
is playing with so much fire. Like, we'll get to the match later on, but they kind of let Ronda do that because she's a legit fighter, and they knew what they were doing. But you can't compare what they did back with China to nowadays because of, the abuse and all that shit that's going on. Now that would be playing with so much fire. WWE would have so much backlash coming from that.
I realize that, but they kind of teased that it could be possible. I mean, look at what Charlotte did in the mixed match challenge. She was trying to chop Rusev, and unfortunately that didn't work. But still, she has a big boot from hell. Her dad has some. She's best friends with like AJ Styles, so I feel like the chemistry between them could make for an amazing match. And her dad is best friend. Her dad is a close friend of Randy Orton's. So if they were to insert her in one of the men's title pictures, she at least has people in those pictures that would be cautious with her and still be able to put on a great match.
Yeah, I mean, it was still like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy for Charlotte. I don't think she needed it, but it was still a good match.
All right. Shall we move on to the United States Fatal 4-Way?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, Rusev Day unfortunately ended on a sad note here. Jinder Mahal defeated Randy Orton, who was the United States champion for this match, and Bobby Roode, and Rusev with shaved head Aiden English. Now, I'm a Jinder Mahal sympathizer. I feel like he's just been a victim of bad throughout the year, and that's why his title reigns fell flatter than they should have. I liked him as WWE champion for at least the first month because, like, oh my God, they actually pulled that trigger. And then they kept doing the thing with the Singh brothers, and I'm not a big fan of cage matches in general, with the exception of like Hell in a Cell and Elimination Chamber. The Punjabi prison match is just not a good concept.
No, it's not.
Because like any match where you have to like escape a sort of structure, it just seems like plain stupid to me. And the Punjabi prison takes it to like a new level of stupid. And then after that, they decide to like make Jinder super racist against Shinsuke Nakamura, and that didn't help him at all either. And they thought, maybe if we book him against Brock for Survivor Series, that might get him back up there in terms of popularity. And they just realized at the last minute, you know what, we should actually be using Survivor Series as an opportunity to book dream matches. So let's put the title on AJ, and he can have a classic with Brock, as opposed to two big guys who we're not entirely sure about, just lumping around. I'm happy for Jinder, but you and I both thought this should have been Rusev Day all around.
What really frustrates me about this is not that Rusev lost. It was the fact that you've got to know that Vince and the creative team hear the crowd. You have 70 to 80,000 people chanting at you Rusev Day. And you go the complete opposite way. You go with someone that everybody hates. Look, Jinder's a capable wrestler in the ring. Bad booking's what got him. Shooting him to the top is what ruined him. He wasn't ready for the WWE Championship. You should have started him off in the U.S. title division. Then have him work his way up. That's what WWE does. They hotshot a lot of people because they're so reactionary. They needed an Indian market. Give it to a Canadian. Why not?
Oh, yeah, Jinder is Canadian.
He is. And it's just so frustrating when they won't listen to the fans. There's some times where you shouldn't, but this is the time where you should. Rusev has shown he's a great wrestler. He's got Aiden English as a great mouthpiece and, manager. The dude can actually talk, really well. He's not the best talker, but he's got mic skills. He's the whole package, and you're going to punish him, what I think, for a stupid reason. That's because he's married to Lana. And that got out. That's the only reason I could think of that they're still pushing him down.
I didn't think of this until just now, but I remember they didn't realize what they had with Daniel Bryan until like the very last minute, and then tried to make it up at Mania. Then they tried to book Sami Zayn in sort of the same way they had been booking Daniel Bryan. The difference between Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn was like with Sami Zayn, they were booking him to lose on purpose because they felt like he can rebound, and then it'll make whenever he does win the title that much more special. I think they're trying to do the same thing here with Rusev. I think they want to see how strong the fans will stand behind him through and through all the bullshit that they're putting him through. And if you'll notice on the Saudi Arabia card, they've now booked him to face Undertaker in a casket match.
Did they really?
Yes, Undertaker versus Rusev for the Greatest Royal Rumble in a casket match has been booked. And Rusev sent out an actual tweet that said, "Bury me softly, brother." So I feel like there's something going on here where they're just like, they want to see how strong the love for Rusev Day truly is. So they're putting it through these trials of hell to see how to see how strongly they'll stick with him.
But difference is, Sami Zayn got wins when it mattered. Daniel Bryan got wins. Rusev, every time he has an opportunity, they don't pull the trigger. I get that they want to see how low the fan base is. But when you hear 80 to 90,000 people chanting for Rusev Day, that just showed enough. And not only at Mania, every single week on SmackDown, when he comes out, you hear a Rusev Day chant. The fan base is there. He's selling t-shirts like a motherfucker. He is over. Pull the trigger. Because if not, if he keeps losing, fans are going to lose interest. And then all that work you had will be gone.
Do you feel like they might pull the trigger at SummerSlam? Because if you're booked in a casket match with Undertaker, it feels like almost a given that you're going to lose that match. But I feel like much like with Braun Strowman, you have something magical with Rusev going on. And I feel like they're just waiting to see when the right time is, and I feel like SummerSlam might be that right time that they'll finally realize now is when we pull the trigger.
Let's hope so. But as we found out on SmackDown, it's going to be Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal for the U.S. title, and they're still going this rivalry route. With taking the pin, no less.
Again, I feel like they're testing us. I feel like they're testing us because then they want to see how much shit they can put Rusev through and see how strongly the fans will stick with him. They want the Rusev chance to get louder and louder because I feel like they're setting up for him to finally go for like the heavyweight title, the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. Because like whether AJ or Shinsuke is holding the belt at that time, Rusev's going to be hot. Rusev's going to be hot because the fans are going to.
Momentum's still there by SummerSlam.
True, assuming he's still there, assuming like he hasn't walked out in a fit of rage,
or got drafted over to Raw in the Superstar Shakeup next week.
That too, that could also be a possibility. Okay, we've spent a lot of time on this match and how poorly they book Rusev, or whether or not it's intentional or not. So let's move on to one of my favorite matches of the night. This is one of those matches that you didn't expect to be as good as it was, and it was like magic out of nowhere. Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey defeating Triple H and Stephanie McMahon.
This was my match of the night.
Like, my favorite part of this whole thing was like, I was watching this with my sister. She was sitting right next to me. She is not a wrestling fan, but she was like the perfect anti-wrestling commentator throughout the match, just like poking holes and like, okay, that's silly, that's silly, that's silly. And I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. So like she's making me crack up laughing pointing out how ridiculous wrestling is as we're both watching this match. And like this match, it was kind of ridiculous, but it was like a beautiful ridiculous. It was the ridiculous in which everything that needed to go right did go right.
Let me say something real quick, though.
Yeah.
Ronda impressed the hell out of me in this match.
She did. She impressed me too.
There was a minor mistake with the Explorer suplex, but I feel like that was Stephanie overselling a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Like it feels like just Stephanie might have did one thing when she was supposed to do another thing. Yeah. My favorite line of this entire match, and you mentioned Corey Graves being like a commentating genius.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, like Ronda gets tagged in, and then Corey Graves immediately says, "Call the cops!" And I just burst out laughing.
Corey Graves had the best lines of the night, and that was funny. She finally tags in, "Call the police!"
and like,
oh god,
it was perfect. It was perfect.
And then Ronda coming out, running like a bat out of hell towards Stephanie, pulls her over the ropes.
And like, just she has such a commanding presence. There have been complaints that she's not the best actor, but when you want her to play like stone cold mean face person, she plays that perfectly to a T.
Go ahead.
And like the way she portrays herself on screen, it's very reminiscent of things I've seen from a lot of other MMA fighters, where like the MMA fighters have this switch that they can turn on and off, where they can go from like super nice person, and then they get into the ring/cage, and then like the killer instinct just kicks in, and then the bell rings and the fight is over, and then they just go back to super nice person. With Ronda, it's a little interesting because like she has a very rocky family history that is kind of like made it a little more complex. But like when she goes from like smiling, happy to be in the company, and then just like she goes into super mean face and like, I'm going to kill you now. It's beautiful how that transition is portrayed on screen.
So let me bring up. I was listening to. It was something on YouTube based on what Chael Sonnen was saying on his podcast. Chael Sonnen said something very interesting. He said Ronda Rousey is playing face, but she's really a heel.
You know, you could say the same thing about when she was first on The Ultimate Fighter coaching against Miesha Tate. Like, I believe that she is a nice person with just a lot of roughness around the edges, and depending on who she's around, who she surrounds herself with, that's what brings out the meanest. Like she genuinely dislikes Miesha Tate, and that just brought out the worst person in her possible on screen.
I think Chael meant in terms of face and heel. Like, she's playing a face, but she should really be a heel. She would work that heel so well.
And I'm saying,
use that stone cold killer aspect of it. Just have her go around breaking arms for no reason.
And I'm saying the same thing in terms of like who she is in real life.
Yeah.
She thinks she's a face, when in reality her actions kind of portray herself to be a heel. And I don't think she realizes how heelish she can be sometimes, and that's why. And it's being reflected a little bit in terms of like booking as much as it is in real life.
Which gets me thinking: do you think they'll turn her heel soon, or do you think they're going to ride this wave of momentum that she has for coming in for a little bit?
That is dependent on who her first rivalry is as a member of the Raw roster or SmackDown roster, depending on how the shakeup plays out. Like, if you put her up against maybe Absolution, then they'll probably have her stay face. But if you put her up against someone like Bayley, then the heel turn might be a good move, especially considering Nia Jax is now a face. And Mickie James is now a heel. So it would feel like we need another heel member of the Raw Women's Division, and it's all dependent on booking. It's all dependent on booking. Like, who do you put her up against?
What I would do, like, if you wanted to set up Charlotte versus Ronda, I would have Charlotte turn heel. Have her go into, hey, my family grew up in the wrestling business. What the hell have you done? You beat up Stephanie McMahon. I've been champions, this many times. Get the hell out of my ring. I own this ring. And she becomes the real queen. The evil, like, thinking she's full of herself. And then Ronda being the spirited babyface. And then they come off like that. Because you can really set up a really good, like, shoot promo between the two. That would actually be real fun to watch.
See, minus one or two sentences of what you just said, I could see Charlotte saying almost all of what you just said, but as a face, and it would still be effective. Like like saying, "You've been here a minute. What have you accomplished?" I've been up and down all over the place, and I hold this in my hand. Like she's been a heel, and now she's a face. So
I think she works better as a heel, though. That's why I said you turn Charlotte heel, because she works so much better as a heel. Same with Banks. Sasha Banks works well as a heel. Her face run hasn't been that good, in my opinion. But she can play a dastardly heel, and so can Charlotte. So you set that up, and you go that way, with Charlotte turning heel and then Ronda staying the babyface, riding the wave of praise and momentum she had coming out of Mania.
I'm just like, if you can be a good guy with bad guy tendencies, then I don't feel like there's a need to go full heel. And maybe that's just like my sympathy with Roman Reigns coming out. Like like when Roman Reigns does his best work when he's allowed to just be himself, and that's like what like when he says, "I'm not a good guy, I'm not a bad guy, I'm the guy." What it scripted, it sounds terrible, but the message itself, it kind of fits. Like, hey, he's perfect when you just let him shoot from the hip and be himself. Like he's a nice guy with occasional who's occasionally rough around the edges, and I feel like that's when his character shines the most. So and I feel like the same can be said with Charlotte. She's been a straight bad guy, she's been a straight good guy. Middle of the road, I feel like, is where she shines her best, where she can be good but still occasionally shoot some heel fire verbally.
Oh yeah, but back to the match. I mean, the match was freaking. It was fun,
and we did get a spot that I really wanted, which was Kurt Angle has Triple H in an ankle lock while Ronda has Steph in an armbar, and they're like reaching for each other, trying like save me. And
kind of reminded me of NXT Takeover Toronto with DIY and Revival. That DIY had them both in the armbar, and they were holding each other's hand, trying to stop each other from tapping.
Absolutely. And I was like so happy that they did that, because like it's a good callback to a really great match.
Yep.
I'm a little. There's a small part of me that's disappointed that the match didn't end that way, but like they still had a little bit more to do in the match. Like this was one of the longer matches of the night. It was 20 minutes and 40 seconds.
Wow. To be honest, it didn't feel like it was 20 minutes. It didn't drag on.
True. Like it felt like it went the right amount of time it needed to go. Everyone got plenty of time to work.
I love the spot with Triple H and Ronda. When Triple H just grabs refs like, we're doing this, moves on the side, and Ronda just comes in with punches and strikes in the corner. Triple H is trying to block, like, what the fuck? What the hell?
Yeah, those punches were wild. They were a little bit they were a little bit reminiscent of Shane McMahon's punches, because like he likes to do that one weird boxing spot. And
I mean, I kind of understand that. One, it was her first Mania, her first match, so she's gonna be kind of rough. And two, she's a legit fighter, you know. Like
yes,
trying her best to pull her punches a little bit. And it does look kind of weak, but you kind of understand why it has to right now.
Speaking as an MMA fan, though, it reminded me a little bit of like, okay, her punches aren't that great in wrestling, kind of like how they weren't all that great in MMA, because her coach Edmund is a terrible human being who pretty much is responsible for her losing her last two fights and her career going down the toilet there. Like that's a lot. That's one thing people overlook, is like people think, oh, Ronda just isn't as great as like everybody claimed she was. Like, no, she was good. It's just a matter of like everyone in the sport caught up to her, and she had a terrible used car salesman of a boxing coach that made her think she was something she wasn't, and she just kind of like coasted on her laurels, and it cost her and forced her to retire. Like, had she gone somewhere else, had she gone to like Jackson Wink Academy, her striking would have improved so much, and she'd still probably be on top fighting right now. Like her current husband, Travis Brown, he transitioned from Jackson Wink Academy to Coach Edmond, and his striking, which was beautiful beforehand, I've never seen someone actually degress in terms of skill set the way I saw Travis Brown degress. Like, he forgot how to move his feet. He forgot how to jab. It was scary how bad his striking got compared to where he started out as a striker. Like that just shows you, like, you got to have trust in good people. And Edmund Tavarian, he was just not a good person for Ronda Rousey to trust.
All right, so back on the match, though.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know. I got on a tangent. But I
want to talk about that finish, that armbar, because that looked stiff as hell. I don't know if that was a legit, did she literally injure Stephanie, or was that play? Because the way she put her arm, the way it pulled back, it looked like it could have, like, dislocated her shoulder or something.
Okay, so remember when Brock Lesnar used the Kimura for a little bit?
Yeah.
And like they did it in a way where it was like, okay, I got the lock, and then broken. So that's not really how a Kimura works. Granted, Frank Mir snapped Minotauro Nogueira's arm with it, but usually, with my experience with Kimuras, it's more so like the shoulder joint and the ligaments within it are more so being like ripped and torn.
Yeah.
More than the bone is being broken. And
it's just that armbar looked very stiff from the way it looked, because she dropped back with it, which kind of.
Yes, but she wasn't really applying pressure with the hips. The way you get pressure on an armbar is like you have the lock, and like she was using more of like an underhook grip.
Yeah.
Like that's a good way to get strain on the arm, but of course they were doing what they do usually when Alberto Del Rio has the cross arm breaker, which was they were turning the arm in a way that the elbow was not being affected, the ligaments in the arm were not being affected, and Ronda was not like thrusting her hips into the lock to get the full extension, so. No damage was. I don't feel like damage was being done to Stephanie's arm. And also, Jim Green, your buddy from Alpha Alliance, pointed this out to me the very next night on Raw. He was watching it live, and he was like, "Okay, the grip is a little weird." It took me a while to figure out what he was talking about, and then I saw the playback for myself, and I saw like Stephanie's arm was slightly bent as Ronda was holding onto the arm. And I'm like, okay, this is more so Stephanie screwing up the move, because, like, again, they had the arm. She turned the arm in a way that like it would still be protected while Ronda had the arm bar in, and it just happened like, oh, she was bending it and Ronda's still grabbing it, so it looks kind of weird on TV. But
just like I was expecting her to do like a regular armbar, the way I've seen Alberto do it in wrestling, where the elbow is protected, but the way she did it kind of looked very fucking stiff, so it kind of freaked me out. But I was like, hold on, that doesn't look right.
Well, think about it though. Like before that night, Asuka was using the armbar in like the normal fashion. Before that, Del Rio / El Patron was using the cross arm breaker, where he had the feet crossed in an X. Which, by the way, you're not supposed to do that in jiu-jitsu. That's a bad it just sets you up to get passed in terms of guard positioning. Then you had Becky Lynch, who's like who has like the erection. She has the erection armbar.
Armbar is what the proper name of the move is.
Which one?
A Fujiwara armbar is the one
Well, Becky Lynch calls her version the disarm her, and also you have like I think Tommaso Ciampa has like this weird armbar where he's like bridging.
He flips over and bridges with it.
Yeah, so like they had to do something to make Ronda's armbar stand out, so they went with like the underhook grip, which is a very effective armbar, speaking from jiu-jitsu experience. So they gave her something to stand out.
It was a very fun, good match. Ronda looked very strong. Let's talk about her selling. She actually sold very well for her first match.
Yes. Like a lot of people were wondering how well can she sell, because like she got put through a table, I think like just a few days before Mania, and she was like cringing on the table for maybe a second, and then she just suddenly starts looking up at the McMahons and with like angry face, like still trying to sell pain, but still trying to sell like, I'm pissed that you just did this to me. And it looked kind of awkward on TV.
Yeah.
Here though, I think they were careful with like the camera shots. They hid her weaknesses and showcased her strengths.
Yeah.
And that's part of what made this match really good. And we should probably mention that like I didn't think this match started off all that great, and that's mostly because like maybe Kurt Angle and Triple H, their ages are just starting to show a little bit. Like Kurt Angle felt a little slow with his reaction time, and Triple H, he keeps himself in phenomenal shape, but still though, like you're gonna slow down with age, unless you're Gold Dust, of course, in which case you're only gonna speed up as you get older.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like he's like a fine wine that just keeps getting better and better the longer he's around. But once we got to like once you got Ronda in there and she was beating up on Steph, and then she starts beating up on Triple H. And
Steph, Steph is one of the best heels in WWE today.
Oh, without question, without question.
Because the fear in her eyes when Ronda had the armbar. When she finally had the armbar fully, and you hear her go, "I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry, please." Her begging, that was a great heel work, which is kind of sad because someone who's not a full-time wrestler plays a better heel than most of the superstars nowadays.
Well, I think it might be like the civilian aspect of it. It helps her in terms of like giving that reaction, because like, oh no, I don't do this that often. So like for me to be in this position with a trained killer is a scary, scary thought.
Trained killers. I had one problem with this match, and maybe it was my just watching the UFC all the time. But how the hell is Stephanie McMahon going to block 4 armbar attempts from Ronda Rousey?
That
was just the one nitpick I had. I was like, trained fighters can't do that most of the time. How is Steph going to do it?
Well, I can think of 2 reasons. One, armbar defense is something that kind of teach you on like jiu-jitsu class number 3 at the latest. Secondly, the McMahons are fucking crazy. So like Shane McMahon is booked as like this civilian who can somehow last with world champions in matches. So like the McMahon family has been booked for the past like 20 to 30 years in a way that makes them seem like not your average bear. Yeah. And so like when they go up against the leaders of once they go up against the head lions on Pride Rock and are actually able to stand a fighting chance against them, it makes sense because like they've somehow been able to just do that for as long as they've been alive.
Yeah. Maybe it was something that like I looked at kind of like a nitpick problem, but again, the match was fantastic. It was it was the match of the night to me, second behind the IC triple threat match.
I will probably consider this my match of the night as well, although I didn't really pick a match of the night, or I haven't ranked these matches yet. And you know what? But I think this one is definitely worthy of being at the top. This one's definitely worthy. Yes, moving to so with that match going 20 minutes and 40 seconds, we needed a couple cooldowns. So the triple threat match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. champions the Usos versus the New Day versus the Bludgeon Brothers. Before we get to the actual results of the match, I just want to say the Pancake people, the funniest thing and probably my most favorite thing I have ever seen in my 22 going on 23 years of existence on this planet.
That was funny. That was super entertaining.
That was.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was magical. That was magical.
Dude,
I hope I never forget that moment.
I won't say that this is the best New Day entrance. I still got to go back to 32 when they were dressed up as Dragon Ball Z characters, the big shoulder pads, and they came out of the New Day cereal. That was the best entrance to me.
That was big and extravagant, but you know, I consider myself to be a less is more kind of guy when it comes to effectiveness of certain things, and you know, technically this was less is more, and like less height, it was less height, and they didn't have like a big cereal box. They just had a bunch of tiny people dressed up as stacks of pancakes doing the worm. And my God, it was like Corey Graves even said, one of them has a face tattoo. He looks like a Pancake Graves. And
Corey Graves was on point tonight. Coach, not so much.
Coach, you know, I wasn't watching when he was first with the company. So, like, I really don't know, like, what are his high points and what are his low points as a commentator in his history of being with the company.
He was a very good heel announcer, but now that they have him in the middle, it's kind of it's kind of bland.
Okay. So, in terms of predictions, I had the Bludgeon Brothers. You had the Usos retaining. This was finally where I got a point without you also getting a point. Like we tied for the Kurt Angle and Ronda match over Triple H and Steph. That was like I think the first point of the night I got, but we both got that point. I had the Bludgeon Brothers, and they won. Yeah, it just felt like it was their time to finally hold these tag team titles. They teased how dominant they were at what was Fastlane. They teased it at Fastlane how dominant they were when they laid both tag teams out on the ground. And
this match was pretty much a long squash match.
It was meant to be. Like after how action-packed the mixed tag match was, they needed something to cool the momentum down. Yeah. And you know, this match certainly did have potential. It just, like, in terms of placement, it had to be the cool down.
To be honest, I probably would have put this on the pre-show, but I understand that they wanted to give the Usos their Mania moment on the main card, and I love that. But again, I would have probably replaced that with the Cruiserweight Championship match and give them, 10 to 15 minutes to go at it.
Yeah, but, like, given what else was on the card, then the argument could be made that the Cruiserweight title would have had to have been the cool-down match. And so, like, the Usos have had it rough in terms of their WrestleMania history. This was they finally got on the main show.
And they lost.
And they not only did they lose, but they only got 5 minutes to really do much.
Yeah.
And we know we know what the Usos are capable of with both the Bludgeon Brothers and the New Day. Because, like, back in, like, I think it was 2014, 2015, they were having classic matches with the Bludgeon Brothers, and the Usos were having classic matches, plus the addition of Bray Wyatt and John Cena from time to time. The chemistry was just there. And then you go down to everything that's going on the past year between the Usos and the New Day, classic matches. So we know what they're capable of putting
on. You find out that it's going to be Usos versus Bludgeon Brothers at Saudi Arabia, and I'm excited.
I am too, like, because they're probably gonna give that match a lot of time, considering, like, for us, it's the Saudi Arabia event is going to start at noon my time, 11 a.m. your time. So I'm anticipating all the matches to get a lot of time, or at least 10 minutes each. At least 10 minutes each, because
they're going to get a lot of time considering they have a 50-man rumble to get through.
Yeah, I forgot about that until I started talking, and then I'm like, okay, I got to roll it back now.
Yeah.
But hopefully they get treated better on that card than they did on Mania. And if not, there's still Backlash. There's still Backlash.
This is going to be a really awesome month. I mean, you had Mania, TakeOver. Now you're going to have the Greatest Royal Rumble and Backlash in the same month.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're not done with the cool-down matches, though.
Squash matches.
Okay, so this is where we finally figured out what was going to come of the Undertaker and John Cena rivalry.
Because I think the referee told Cena about that after the Asuka Charlotte match, correct?
Yes, I
hated that.
Asuka was still in the ring. Charlotte was walking down the ramp. All of a sudden, the ref starts running down the ramp, and I'm like, oh, what is he doing? And then he hops the ramp, and then he starts talking to Cena, and I'm like, okay, something's about to come of this.
I hated that.
In fairness, though, it was better than having multiple shots per match of John Cena drinking the same beer over and over and over again.
I mean, I don't mind that the ref jumped and told him. What sucks is they took the monumental moment of Charlotte beating Asuka's streak, and then not even 2 minutes after that, the ref's jumping out of the ring and shots over to Cena, and it takes the moment away from them when they had such a great match.
In fairness, though, like you were mentioning how disappointed you were that they ended Asuka's streak. So I'm thinking like maybe they did that as a way to bring the crowd's morale back up. That by that being sort of the sign, like, oh my God, the Undertaker is here. This ref is telling John Cena the Undertaker is here. We can be happy again.
You could have done it any other time, but I mean, it would be kind of like, let's say, Undertaker and Lesnar, when Taker's streak ends, the referee comes out, jumps the barricade, and tells someone else something. You would be like, what the fuck, man? Like, what's going on? Like, show the ring. Show Asuka. Show Charlotte. Show that respect. Don't just hand over to John Cena.
Yep. Hey, shut up. Luna, calm down. Damn it.
That's what got me so pissed off was they took such a great moment, especially when it's supposed to be the women's evolution, and they had a fantastic match, and then right after the match, Charlotte leaves and pans right over to Cena.
I get where you're upset. I'm just thinking like they had the moment in the ring where Asuka was like, Charlotte was ready for Asuka, and
which was such a great line.
Then they shake hands and they hug. They shake hands and they hug, and I thought like, okay, they've had their moment, and now we're kind of shifting gears, and then so that's
what, in the ring. You could have had her celebrate a little bit on the apron, on the whatever it's called, on the rampway. And then once she left, then the ref could have run out behind her. But the fact that Charlotte was still in the ring, and then
Asuka was still in the ring. Charlotte was walking down the ramp.
Was it? Well, still, have Asuka leave, have her get that crowd cheering for her, which she was. Have her have that moment. Then as she's walking back into the ramp, then you have the ref run down. You don't just do it right in front of this moment.
I don't know. I just feel like the placement of when they did it was okay. Like the placement
was good. You could have done it after the moment, though.
That's just it, though. I feel like the moment had happened, and therefore the placement was good. Like if Like you feel like the moment went a little bit longer than I did, and you feel like the ref stepped on it. I feel like the moment happened, and then at the appropriate time for it to end, that's when the ref came out.
The thing is, what I'm saying is, Asuka just lost her streak. You want her to, be alone in the ring, having that applause for a minute, and then you have her walk out. Instead of, the streak ends, the respect, and then the ref runs out. The respect I love that. But it still felt like it was Charlotte and Asuka. You want Asuka to have her moment, especially since you took her streak away from her.
Okay, that I can understand.
It's like the Undertaker thing. When he lost to Lesnar, they didn't go on to the next match. They waited a minute. They let the fans cheer for Taker. They let him have the respect that he deserves. Asuka has had a 2-year streak. Let her have a moment of the cheers and applause for having a great match with Charlotte in the ring. And then as she's walking out, then you have the ref come out and you transition along from there.
That's fair. That's fair. It's hard because this was what the main card itself had. I think 14 matches. So,
yeah.
It's a damned if you do. Actually, main card had 11 matches.
11? I thought it was 9.
Pre-show had 3. So in total, it's 14. That's what it's saying right here on the page I'm looking at. In total, there were 14 matches. This business is hard to do. It's very hard to please everybody, and especially even if you're trying. And sometimes we aren't sure if WWE is actually trying to please us at times.
Yeah,
but
I wish they would have gave Asuka just that one moment before cutting the camera to Cena, which we've seen Cena enough in the crowd as it is.
I get that. And maybe if I watch it back, I might feel a little bit more of what you're feeling.
Yeah.
I just feel like I feel like they had the moment that you feel like she didn't.
They had the moment, but it was still Charlotte and Asuka. I wanted Asuka to have her moment.
Okay. Let's actually talk about what happened in terms of so John Cena comes out. He's in full gear as opposed to street clothes, which is what he was in before when he was in the crowd. And he thinks he's going to have a match. Another ref runs down the ramp as he's in the ring getting ready, and he starts whispering in his ear. John Cena gets super pissed off. Lights go down. That's when the crowd starts thinking, okay, this is it. Guitar plays. Out comes Elias, and then John Cena goes through his moveset in the angriest fashion I've ever seen him give it in. He's just like, I hate you right now. You are not what I wanted. This attitude adjustment 5-knuckle shuffle. I feel so pissed off and disrespected right now. So he starts walking up the ramp after he's beaten Elias to a pulp. And then the lights go down again. Spotlight on the ring. There's Undertaker's clothes. The lights go down again. I think there was a lightning strike in there somewhere.
Yep.
Lights go up again. The clothes aren't there. Lights go down again. Dong.
And see, what's funny is to add a little context to this. You and me were talking over Facebook through the whole card of Mania. And when I told you, I was like, oh, this is so stupid. You're like, you said something like, you were saying what now? I kept telling you, I was like, it's either going to be a squash match or it's not going to be a match. It's going to be a stare down.
You kept telling me it wasn't going to be a match. And in the moment, I was really enjoying how I was from this weird viewpoint. I was enjoying and kind of admiring WWE for how much they were trolling us, because they at least have some balls to put us through this. Like we may not like it, but you got to respect that they're. You got to respect that they're being this ballsy with our patience, and Elias, he's a good lyricist. He writes some funny promo songs, and then they bring out Undertaker. You didn't think this was going to be a match. You thought this was going to be a beatdown, and they were going to officially, and it was going to be like a rematch next year.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Taker comes out, just destroys Cena, but it's not a match. It's just a beatdown for what he said to him. Then Taker points the Mania sign, and it sets up for next year's Mania. Which I kind of wish they did that in hindsight.
The rematch is still a possibility, but getting back to the present moment.
Does this really count as a match, though?
What?
I said, does this really count as a match, though?
Well, not. We both picked the same guys.
Yep.
So whether it counts as a match or not, it doesn't really affect our score totals. But so basically, like, getting back to what happened after the gong, we see Undertaker, or we see what we can see of Undertaker through this blue smoke that's making it very hard to see the screen and everything going on in the arena. John Cena is like frozen with fear. He's walking back to the ring.
I don't understand why he was frozen. He literally called him out 4 weeks straight. You should be ready to fight, not hiding in the corner.
I think it's a matter of, like, we mentioned what Connor did to the UFC card. Like, his emotional rampage just kind of like threw everyone off mentally, physically, emotionally, and it just made the card a nightmare for everybody. And so, like, the amount of stress that John Cena put himself through, let alone what Taker's non-answers put him through, probably like just threw him off so much emotionally that, like, by the time Taker finally came out, he was like, okay, you put me through all this and I didn't expect you to actually come out. Now I'm like,
I think it was planned.
I
think he knew in advance that Taker was going to be there.
Hard to say. Hard to say. I'm just going by kayfabe, and kayfabe was John Cena was like, I'm surprised you actually showed up.
Yeah.
And now we're in this moment. We're on the grandest stage of them all. I feel the dead man presence surrounding the room.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like starstruck. I'm kind of awestruck by it. And, he wasn't really able to get in any offense. Like, he went for the 5-knuckle shuffle, and Taker did a signature sit-up and looked at him, and then all of a sudden John Cena just, like, flops on his back like a Scooby-Doo just seeing a monster for the first time.
And then, back to the match, Taker just whoops the hell out of Cena.
Yeah, what I just mentioned was part of the match. Like, it was one of the spots in the match.
Oh, yeah.
And I realized that the match itself was 2:45. It was only 2 minutes and 45 seconds, and it was basically just Undertaker just beating down
It was Taker's greatest hits. He hit Old School, he hit Chokeslam, he hit the Tombstone.
And he teabagged John Cena in the face for 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Like, that was probably the most up close and personal Tombstone pile driver pin I think we've ever seen.
But see, let me switch over to my camera real quick. A lot of people have problems with this, and at first I did too, but going back and looking at it, this is exactly what I expected to happen. Especially with, rumors was that Taker had just come out of hip surgery. So props to him for wrestling right after surgery.
The rumors I heard was that he was in, like, the best physical shape he had been in years. Like, he was finally injury free.
I thought he had just come back from hip surgery, but
that was last year, I think.
No, that was he had a head injury last year.
No, I thought the head injury was with Brock. This
I
is
don't know.
this is the
Maybe
problem with the Undertaker is that he gets hurt. So he gets hurt so much just trying to prepare himself for this one match a year. And
maybe I heard that wrong, but
I think you're mixing up injuries from past. The most recent thing I had heard was that this was like the week of Mania. This was the most injury-free he had been in years, and it was just a matter of like, will he actually show up?
the one thing I did like is how it harkened back to his younger Mania days. Because if you go back and watch his matches with Jimmy Snuka and Kevin Nash, those matches didn't last long. But now going back, sit down and looking at the match, I actually love this. One, it sets up a potential story. Two, it got into Taker's mind, and Cena said some real harsh things to him. So you kind of expect the ass whooping. And three, he was caught off guard, so he can always use that as an excuse to get Taker again.
Sorry. So you think there's going to be a rematch?
Oh yeah, definitely. There has to be.
I agree. I think there will also be a rematch. They can definitely use the excuse of like Cena was caught off guard by the moment, and next go around he will be more prepared.
Question is, do you think it's going to be at Mania 35 or SummerSlam this year?
I feel like John Cena might have some obligations to attend to outside of wrestling, so I feel like, but he will always make himself available for WrestleMania season. So I am thinking it will be for Mania 35.
Do you think it will be the main event?
Main event?
It should be. I mean, Taker's usually always gets the main event.
He's usually one of the main events. Like
for the past 2 years, he has been he's been the last match, except for this year.
See here, last year he was with Roman in the main event. Yes, that is true. Who was his opponent before that?
For 32.
That was Shane McMahon, I think.
Yeah, that was the main event. Okay.
That wasn't the closer, though. I don't think that was the closer.
But so, like I'm saying, like he's usually been in the main events.
Yes, but in terms of WrestleMania, there can be multiple main events, and it's
I don't like that excuse of multiple main events.
I just don't feel like that's going to be the closing match of the show, especially if we get what we were predicting earlier, which was Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey for 35. Like that
could be the main event for the title.
Yes, that could definitely be the main event.
That would be epic if they actually decided to go with that.
Okay, so let's get back on track here. Moving on to the next match, we got through those cool-down matches, so now it's time to build the audience back up. And the return of Daniel Bryan, partnering with Shane McMahon.
Yes.
Taking on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. The stipulation was that if Zayn and Owens won, they would be rehired to SmackDown. Mm-hmm. You had Owens and Zayn winning. I had D. Bryan and Shane winning.
The only reason I had them was because of the stipulation.
Yes, but you gotta also think that you also got to factor in this is Daniel Bryan's first match in 3 years.
Like,
there's no way that the crowd loves him. There's no way, even considering the dumb booking decisions that they made tonight. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't. But there's no way you're going to have Daniel Bryan lose his first wrestling match.
That's what I was thinking about. And I thought they were going to go this way when Zayn and Owens took out Bryan in the beginning of the match. I thought that Shane was going to take the pinfall. And that, that would kind of protect Daniel Bryan because he didn't get the pin. And Sami and Kevin would be rehired to SmackDown. Then you could continue whatever you were going to do with that. That's what I thought was going to happen.
But then you got to factor in like all the promos D-Bry had been cutting the 2 weeks before Mania. Like he kept talking about fighting for your dreams, fighting for your dreams. It was his dream to compete once again. The opportunity to compete, like he was booked for this match. He had fought so hard to get to this point. Yeah. There's no way he was going to stop fighting right then and there. So when he got laid out outside of the ring, I immediately realized, okay, they're setting him up to have like this massive comeback.
I wasn't saying right then. I was saying like, yeah, you have him fight, but then you have, instead of doing that at the beginning, you have Sammy and Kevin hit the powerbomb. Daniel rolls out after, coming in like a house of fire, and then they just take out Shane at the end. That way, you still get Daniel Bryan has that fire up moment. He gets all his stuff in, and then he gets taken out, rolls in, and then they focus on Shane, and then Shane takes the pinfall.
Okay, but that's not what happened. Daniel Bryan got the win. He
pretty much took out Kevin and Sammy by himself.
Yeah, pretty much, because like Shane McMahon, he was legit dealing with diverticulitis. Like you got to remember, that's what ended Brock's MMA career for the first go around. Was like he just could not physically absorb punishment the way he needed to in order to be successful. And Shane McMahon, like, he was dealing with a lot of stomach issues. Like, I don't know if Corey Graves was serious or not when he said this one line, but I believe he said that Pat Patterson went to hug Shane backstage before the show went live, and Shane winced from that simple hug. So if that was true, then that just shows how much of a bitch diverticulitis is, how tough Shane McMahon actually is to be able to perform through all that. But Daniel Bryan got the win for his team. He hit Sami Zayn with the knee plus, and then got him in the yes lock. Yep. And Sami Zayn tapped, and we have. So this brought us up. This got us tied. This got us tied in terms of predictions. I don't know how I was able to come back from it, but because I was, I think, like 3 matches down when we started. But so Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss, that was going to be our tiebreaker. And I was using the logic of, given the Triple H Booker T storyline from 2003, where Triple H basically bullied Booker T to no end, and you were expecting this big payoff from Booker T at Mania, and that payoff never came.
Being racist towards Booker, especially with that one line, people like you cannot be world champion.
Oh yeah, and this that's basically how Alexa treated Nia storyline wise. Only it was more so about weight and appearance than it was about race and ethnicity.
Yeah, which I get the message. I just don't think that should be in wrestling, especially when you're coming off of the Piggy James situation and how horrible that was at the time.
Yeah, that makes things even more interesting. Is that like you have Mickey James? Yeah, Mickey James is involved in this. So like, in a way that makes sense though, because like bullies are usually people who have been bullied. So like maybe this is her trying. This is like Mickey James' way of fighting back. Like I'm gonna join the cool kids who.
I don't think stories like this should be in wrestling, but I do like that they gave him a happy ending at the end. It has no place in storylines, whether it comes with race or whether it comes with bullying / weight issues. Like, people watch this to escape, and I don't feel like it should be in there, but that's just me.
At the same time, though, and maybe this rivalry is a bad example for what I'm about to say next, but you also have to be able to laugh at yourself from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, look at how much momentum James Ellsworth got by laughing at himself and the fact that he has no chin and looks like an extinct bird. So like,
I get that, but
you can.
The way they were doing it, the way it was booked, it just didn't work that way. I mean, I like the fact that she won, and I like the fact that I do think that the announcers overplayed the hell out of that win, though. Especially Coach, where he's like, for anyone who's been bullied, just, Coach, stop. It's a good moment. She won fair and square. It's not about that. It's about she's a great athlete. She won the title. Focus on that. It's just that line is what got me when Coach is just going off about that. And like, I get it. You're trying to tie in with the story. But don't bring that up. Just bring up the fact that, hey, she beat Alexa Bliss, who was at one point the greatest champion, greatest heel, in my opinion. And she did it because she was a great athlete. She won by herself.
True, but I didn't feel like that line was maybe. I was okay with that line. I was okay with that line, and also, like, speaking from personal experience, you and I, in terms of trivia, we don't have the best records overall in various divisions, but we still keep trying, and we have had our days in the sun, and so we relish those moments where we have our days in the sun.
Iron Man.
Oh, fuck you.
Stan Hansen, baby.
Oh, that match still haunts me. But yeah, like, this was Nia's moment in the sun after having so many downfalls. So for Coach to say, for anyone, for those of you who have been bullied, there is your moment in the sun will come, and for Nia Jax, this was her moment. I felt like that was appropriate. I felt like this was the place for it to be said. But
I just felt like they overdid it a little bit.
To each their own. To each their own. And with that, this is where I won the predictions championship. But let's finish the last three matches.
I should have changed my pick. I was debating going for either Shinsuke or AJ this one.
Yeah, speaking of Shinsuke and AJ, I'm looking at the time. It was 2020, so this was the second longest match of the card. So wow,
20 minutes.
Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey's match went the longest out of every match on the card. AJ versus
20 minutes.
AJ versus Nakamura was the second longest. It got 2020 to Kurt and Ronda and Triple H and Stephanie's 2040. So
wow.
Yeah. So this is the significance of this match is this was basically a rematch of a couple Wrestle Kingdoms ago where Shinsuke Nakamura defeated AJ Styles for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, and then they both ended up going to WWE. AJ Styles was put on the main roster. Shinsuke was put on the NXT roster around the time of Takeover for that WrestleMania season.
Yeah, it was Takeover Dallas.
Yes, and he had a phenomenal match with Sami Zayn that year.
Oh yeah, he did.
So we all thought that this was gonna be Shinsuke's moment in the sun. More so, especially considering Asuka had lost earlier that night. But apparently, it was just not a good night to be
Japanese.
It was not a good night to be Japanese or a Royal Rumble winner, for that matter, because WWE had other plans.
Which this really shocked me.
I do like, though, that they used the history between the two to. Excuse me, I'm about to burp. I do like that they used the history between the two to set up the finish, which is that, like, these two have been in so many matches together or against each other so many times that AJ was able to spot that the Kinshasa was coming and was able to counter it with the Styles Clash.
I do like the fact, being someone who does follow New Japan regularly, I do like the fact that Shinsuke actually hit a Bomier knee that he used to use in New Japan before he went to using the Kinshasa, which is more of just a high kick. You could tell he literally hit him with the knee, which was very, very, very strong strike to use, and 2, was very shocking to see on WWE, for the first time.
I'm sure, though, he's used it before, at least in NXT.
Possibly.
I swear I've heard Corey Graves say, or Mauro Ranallo say, a Boomy knee from at least once.
Well, maybe it wasn't NXT, but the first time on the main roster.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. But so they put on a back and forth classic. Like, these two are two of the best storytellers in the business. That much is clear. And it was slow paced at first, and then they picked it up towards the end. That's how good stories are built. It wasn't a sprint; it was a marathon, and these two ran a marathon perfectly, and led to the finish. AJ Styles gets the Styles Clash.
That was my favorite finish.
He gets the Styles Clash, countering the Kinshasa. 1, 2, 3. Shocked us both because we both had Nakamura, and so then after the match, Nakamura.
Let me say something real quick though. I do like how when AJ went, or when Nakamura was setting up for the Kinshasa, AJ rolled through, and I thought he was going to roll through into a calf killer or calf crusher. No, he rolled all the way through into a Styles Clash that was so smooth. The smoothness of the roll through foot and then the Styles Clash was just very, very awesome looking.
And that's saying something, considering how easily the Styles Clash can be botched from time to time.
Oh yeah,
like you look at guys like Yoshitatsu and Roderick Strong. They've been on the rough ends of a couple Styles Clashes because wrestling training, it teaches you tuck your head when really this is a move.
You don't tuck your head on the Styles Clash.
This is a move where you should not do that by any stretch of the imagination.
You just leave your head the way it is, and you have Styles flop face first.
But yeah, agree with you. This was like the perfect Styles Clash. It went smooth like butter, and then
the ending.
Yes. So to set this up, so they're doing the thing where they're like, "Damn it, Luna! Damn it!"
I'll do it.
No, I got it.
Okay.
So they're being respectful opponents to each other. They have the handshake. Shinsuke turns to the referee. I'm going to ignore my dog. Shinsuke turns to the referee, takes the title, hands it he kneels down and graciously hands it to AJ, and then as AJ accepts the title, Shinsuke does the classic uppercut to the taint, which is supposed to simulate an uppercut to the balls. And as it was said on the Raw and SmackDowns after, the shot heard round the world, sort of.
Let me bring up a point, though. This kind of reminded me of WrestleMania 19. Jericho and Michaels, after that classic match, Jericho hugs Michaels and then low blows him and he falls, kind of like AJ did when he fell on Shinsuke, kind of like the hug position. And then Shinsuke just takes him outside and kicks his fucking head off with one of the stiffest Kinshasas I've ever seen on the floor.
I'll need to look back at the replay, but I do recall there being some serious contact with that Kinshasa.
It was literally a knee to face.
Oh boy. They don't play around in Japan, so AJ Styles is one of the toughest MFers in the business. That much is for sure.
Oh yeah.
But he retained the WWE title, and now we are in this position where Shinsuke is a heel. Shinsuke is a heel now, and
he had one of the greatest promos on SmackDown of all time.
Yes. I'm watching. Before we started recording this, I was watching last night's SmackDown, and Yeah, Hunter mentioned this to me earlier, like how much we both love that Shinsuke is now like apologizing for his actions, but not really apologizing.
He winks at Renee after he says it.
It's just like so sarcastic, and then
the greatest line of the night. Sorry, I speak no English.
He went full South Park with it, and it was just, and like it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Oh my god!
So where do they go from here? I'm assuming we're probably going to get a title rematch either at Saudi Arabia or at Backlash. Where is the question?
Saudi Arabia would be interesting. I don't think they'll give them enough time, but I would say Backlash, just because I don't feel like they would have enough time to really carve out a great match for Saudi Arabia.
That's probably the case. And also Extreme Rules, which is, I believe, one pay-per-view, if not two pay-per-views after Backlash, which is in my neck of the woods in Pittsburgh. The main event being advertised so far is AJ versus Nakamura versus Baron Corbin for the title. So we'll see how things we'll see how things play out there. Whether or not that's actually the match that gets booked for when it comes to my neck of the woods. This rivalry definitely has legs to go for a while.
P1, baby.
And so now we get to one of my favorite parts of the entire evening. Braun Strowman.
Oh, the tag match.
Yes. Braun Strowman and Nicholas the Fan / the rep.
Nicholas was so over.
Yes. Like literally the next day when he goes to school, he's like signing autographs and signing people's merchandise.
You had the greatest burn of history. When I was talking about, I wonder if Nicholas will get a full-time contract over Brock, and you said Nicholas will be there on Raw tomorrow night. Brock won't. And you were correct.
Yeah, I didn't and that wasn't a joke either. Like I was making a serious claim.
I died laughing when you said that.
And like I was being logical too when I said that because like I didn't realize Nicholas was referee John Cole's son at the time. I was just under the thing like, oh, if this is an actual fan, then he's definitely going to be here for the Raw after Mania because it's still in New Orleans. So like he'll still be in town.
I thought it was a Make-A-Wish kid.
That's I think Malcolm or Dan also thought that, but no, it turns out he was the son of a referee. Braun Strowman picked him out of the crowd. I mean to say.
I don't know how to feel about this.
I loved it. Like this is kind
of shits all over the tag team division, though.
Listen. We've been discussing all day how WWE makes some pretty stupid decisions at times. But sometimes a stupid decision can also be a brilliant one. And this one was It
was funny, but it also, like I said, it made the tag team division on Raw look so fucking weak. Because Sheamus and Cesaro basically lost to a kid.
You may feel that way, but I feel it just made Braun look. It just showcased Braun to be the superstar that he is. Like he can literally do anything you ask him to do. Because think about it, he pushed a fucking Mardi Gras float off the stage, like a badass from hell, and then he goes into the crowd and he's like he's like John Cena on steroids. Not to. Excuse my wording there, but like, okay, how about on like Miracle Grow instead? Like like just imagine John Cena given Captain America's super soldier serum and raised in the country for a very long time, and that's Braun Strowman. Like, it shows that Braun Strowman is like such a perfect multi-layered character. Like, you want him to do the sexual chocolate angle, he can do it. You want him to be like
that shit's hilarious.
You want him to be the monster, he can do that. You want him to be the Make-A-Wish granter, that's who he can be. Like, and like really, so long as you don't have him lose to anyone not named Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar, he won't get hurt by anything you book him through. He was one of Adam.
I'm not worried about Braun. I know Braun's fine. I'm worried about the tag division.
Yeah, but look at where we are now. Like the Bar is getting a rematch, and we could potentially have, and they're either facing the Revival or Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, and both of those teams add a lot to the Raw tag team division in terms of like compelling storylines.
For a story, it seems like it was just there for laughs, and to me, especially when you had Sheamus and Cesaro, who in my opinion were a great tag team together, and then you give it to Braun Strowman and a little kid. While it was entertaining, and Braun had one of the best lines on Raw the next night when he gave a title, he was like, due to, I have to give up the titles due to scheduling conflicts. He is in the 4th grade. But you just took a shit all over the tag team division for one night because you wanted this funny moment. I mean, it was entertaining, but again, it makes the tag division on Raw look so bad.
Again, the tag team division has come back from worse. So, like, yeah. And Braun Strowman has been billed as this monster.
They need to pull the trigger with him. Same thing with him. Problem I had with him is the same problem I have with Rusev. They're not pulling the trigger when it matters.
Well, so I just feel like SummerSlam, that's when they see like the perfect time to pull the trigger on these guys.
If SummerSlam ends with Braun Strowman as Universal Champion and Rusev as WWE Champion, that would be great.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the reason why I thought for so long that SummerSlam would be the perfect time to pull the trigger was because of this main event we have here. Brock Lesnar successfully defending, which shocked everybody, the Universal Championship against Roman Reigns.
This was such a boring match.
You and I both thought that this was going to be where the Roman experiment finally comes to the conclusion Vince McMahon wanted to see it come to. So Roman was going to take the title, and then I thought, okay, he's going to defend it a couple times successfully, and then, he and Braun have great chemistry together. So at SummerSlam, it would be the perfect opportunity for Braun to take the title off of Roman. However, Brock Lesnar apparently signed a new contract with WWE that allows him to, every once in a while, compete in the UFC. Mm-hmm. So the deal was worked out where he can do both. I wonder if Bobby Lashley got the same deal so that he could do
That's
WWE.
what I was wondering, too, because
he's still, I think, an employee of Bellator. Which
actually got me wondering, like, would Vince make a deal with both of them, considering, Bellator's a rival of UFC?
Well, another thing is Vince is a friend of Dana's.
Yep. That's what got me. Like, I don't know if he's still under contract with Bellator and WWE or what's going on because, I don't think Vince would go to the competition of UFC, especially when he's friends with Dana and they signed this contract with Brock.
Yeah, it's very hard to say. We'll know more details as they come, as Dave Meltzer and friends reveal them to the public.
This match was super fucking boring.
The crowd did not want to give this match a chance from the start, and I think it's like remember what happened in 2004 where Lesnar faced Goldberg, and the audience was just like, both you guys are leaving us, so why should we care? And like the idea was like there's still a very large section of the crowd that doesn't want to give Roman the chance that I've been willing to give him, and they probably all thought that Brock was going to leave tonight, not tonight, but at WrestleMania, after WrestleMania, and so they were just like, okay, you've given us another turd sandwich.
It was a turd sandwich match
versus giant douche situation. So I'm just gonna be upset the whole way through, and it didn't help that Brock Lesnar kept spamming his moveset over and over and over again.
It was literally like you're playing 2K18 and you just put like infinite finishers on your opponents. That's what this match was.
Yes.
It was Superman punch, F5, F5, German, Superman punch, F5.
And
he kicked out of 5 F5s.
Like I knew when
One
this
on the table.
I knew when this match was booked, it was going to be a situation where Roman was kicking out of an F5 to show that he is stronger than this one move that has put down everyone else. 5 was definitely overkill. Five was definitely overkill. Like it should have been. Table? It should have been. No, I don't mind the table spots. I don't mind the table spots because like his match with AJ at Extreme Rules, like they both went through tables. They both took finishers from each other. So like it was. I felt like it was balanced and okay. But yeah, this like 5 F5s was definitely overkill. I feel like 3 F5s was the right amount if you had spread them out, along with the table spots. The problem was that it just didn't feel like Brock gave a shit, and it showed in his moveset. Roman is still trying to. Roman is still giving his best.
It didn't feel like it. It seemed like he was just there for a paycheck. Both of them were.
Because that's unfortunately what a Brock Lesnar match has become. So, like, why should he feel motivated?
Well, I mean, you can't call it a Lesnar match. Just look at the match that Lesnar had at Survivor Series with AJ. AJ carried him through a great match. Reigns didn't give a shit. He walked in, didn't give a shit. Lesnar didn't give a shit. Why should we give a shit? And you can tell, he just spammed the Superman punch so many times and hit 3 spears. And that's it. And I know Reigns can do more than that when he gives a shit. I know he's talented in the ring. He didn't give a shit.
I don't really know what to tell you. Other than, like, maybe these two just aren't. Maybe these two just don't have the best chemistry with one another.
And same, like, going back to AJ, same with AJ versus Reigns. Reigns cared about that match. You could tell. And AJ definitely cared about the match. And they worked off each other well. Lesnar and Reigns didn't give a shit about this match.
Let me ask you something. Do you believe what Roman said the next night on Raw, which that he had found out himself that he was getting a rematch at the Greatest Royal Rumble? He found that out on social media. Do you believe him?
I don't believe that shit.
Do you believe he knew Brock was re-signing?
That one, I don't believe. I legit think that Reigns thought that he was leaving.
So, but either he knew and he was frustrated that Brock was going over, or this match is like impossible to defend.
It is.
Like,
because go back to the WrestleMania 31 match. That was when both of them actually cared. And you could tell that Reigns cared about this match. That was actually a pretty good match. This one, none of them gave a shit. It's like this. If your competitors don't care about this match, why should we invest our time in this match? And that's what pissed me off. It was the main event of WrestleMania after a 5-hour show, and you give us this.
Yeah. The way I see it, though, I think this is probably the outside of the Greatest Royal Rumble, this is probably the last time these two will be paired up together, at least in a one-on-one situation, and we're gonna get something different next year.
I think they're setting up for Backlash. Lesnar versus Lashley for the Universal title, and then Joe and Reigns,
and that will probably be a much better match because you look at Lashley. He's been improving his skill sets overall since he left. He has been putting the work in, and you know he will not limit his moveset. He will show as much as he possibly can. Yep. You and I both have talked about. We hope that he's allowed at some point to do the somersault spear. Granted, we realize that there's some company issues about people using each other's finishers, with the exception of the super kick, which is basically no longer a finisher in anyone's eyes.
But as I told you, I feel like he'll use the somersault spear instead of the Dominator, which he'll hit that and then set up for the Dominator to finish off in kind of like a signature finisher combo.
Similar to how Goldberg has used the spear and jackhammer.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay, so that was all of our predictions.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the punishment?
The punishment, we will find out. We will talk about it, and the punishment is going to be a separate video in and of itself. Go ahead and give Mania a rating out of 1 to 5 stars, and your closing thoughts.
Closing thoughts. This Mania showcased that there's a lot to love about stupid wrestling, but there's only so much stupid wrestling you can handle before it reaches a breaking point. I'm going to give this Mania a 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, I'm right around the same ballpark as you. I'll give it a 3.5. The first half was incredible. You had great matches, great character build. The team match, that kind of soured me because, in my opinion, the Raw Tag Team title match, kind of soured me a bit because it made the team division look weak and pretty much shit on. The main event was just awful. So 3.5 sounds like it's like right in the middle. So yeah, it wasn't a bad Mania at all. It just it kind of felt too long at some points, especially during the main event. But
well, that's the problem when you have like 14 matches and you're basically a 7-hour card. Like it gets exhausting after a while. Like this has basically become a marathon for the fans to watch now. Hunter's on his phone, so I will keep talking. But yeah, in terms of the stuff I liked, I loved the Braun Strowman and Nicholas moment. That was a highlight for me, a big highlight. I'm very happy Daniel Bryan got to be back in the ring for the first time, and he's going to grace us with more matches over the coming months. I didn't mind that Undertaker and John Cena went short, and I feel like the reasoning behind it being a squash match was okay. I'm happy Nia Jax got her time in the sun. I understand why the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match had to be short. Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. That was definitely match of the night worthy. I'm a Jinder sympathizer, so I can handle him being the U.S. champ. Feel like it was okay for Asuka's streak to end here, and I feel like she won't be harmed too much by it. I'm a fan of Naomi, so her winning the Battle Royal was okay for me. I'm excited to see where Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt go from here. So for me, it's just a matter of like, I'm not the type of guy who'll get mad at every single dumb thing WWE does, and I will find reasons to like the dumb things that WWE does because this is wrestling, and there's a place for comedy. There's a place for seriousness. There's a place for all sorts of moments in wrestling to happen. And I feel like we got a lot of everything in here. A lot of it I can find reasons to like. I can be the Bendu, I can say, as a Star Wars fan. I can be the Bendu here. The main event we can forget about.
Yeah. All right, Nico, do you want to plug anything before we head out?
Yes. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube at Nico Suave Regoli. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram at Jack of All Trivia, and sometimes Full Metal Media. Tomorrow, my match with Jim Green in Inner Geekdom, Jack of All Trivia, will finally drop. And then Saturday, we got the Faction 4, the Game of Factions match. My Atomic Nation versus Hunters Alpha Alliance versus the Dastardly NWO versus Apocalypse. Then on Sunday, in the TV division, we got the Arrowverse Free-For-All. And then on Monday, I'm taking on Kane McMillan in Jukebox Trivia.
Which the Arrowverse match I am a part of, so I've actually been studying up.
So have I.
All right. And you guys can like, share, subscribe to Film Nerd TV. Check out Patreon, patreon.com/FilmNerdTV. And check out my Stardust page at the same name, Film Nerd TV. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this WrestleMania recap. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.